Excellency Javier Herbosa, the Ambassador of Spain to Qatar. Delighted to welcome you on board for a conversation with the Peninsula. Since 1972, the diplomatic ties between Qatar and Spain have continued, and we have come across several agreements over the past few years in terms of reinforcing the agreements, in terms of cultural exchange, and even promoting the leisure industry. Ambassador Javier, how would you like to recall the enhancements witnessed over the past 5 decades?
First of all, let me welcome you at the Embassy of Spain. Let me tell you that reading the Peninsula is one of the first things that I do in the morning. So we are all friends, your newspaper and I. It's a pleasure to read it every morning. It's a great source of information. Now, coming to the question to put on the table, I have to say that the relationships between Qatar and Spain are just excellent. I was just reading this morning that both countries, not only Qatar, as your newspaper actually points out, Spain as well, they have both been elected for the United Nations Council of Human Rights for the period 25-27. That is an excellent news. And that proves that actually Qatar and Spain are very much on the same page on many issues, and promoting human rights is one of them. Let me tell you that in the last few years, the intensification of relationships between Qatar and Spain has been just amazing. I would say that the turning point was the state visit from His Highness the Emir to Madrid in May 2022. In 2022, he arrived there with a huge delegation. A number of MOUs and agreements were signed, and actually that was a moment in which it was a big bang of our relations on a bilateral level. Since then, not only His Majesty the King of Spain was here in November 2022, and then ever since we have had the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who was here in February 2024. The Prime Minister of Spain was here on the beginning of April 2024 as well. On the 21st of June in Madrid, it took place the first edition of the strategic dialogue between Qatar and Spain, something that actually Qatar and Spain only have with just a few partners, and that underlined the importance that both countries attach to the bilateral relations. And on that occasion, a number of representatives of a number of ministries from both sides got together, defense, culture, education, cooperation, political affairs, anything you might think of, got together, put a number of projects on the line, and we have been working on that ever since. We are working on trade and investment, on tourism, a number of issues, a number of fields that actually match with the desire and the willingness of both countries. You know that Spain is very much into the Agenda 2030. We actually pursue in an intense way the Sustainable Development Goals. And at the same time, we are in the same page with Qatar, with the Qatar National Vision 2030. I think that we look at many issues in a very similar way, and that is the reason why our bilateral relation is working so well.
Yes, and you've been elaborating more on the bilateral enhancements between the two friendly countries. Now, what are some of the prominent sectors, according to you, you would suggest for Qatari entrepreneurs here to invest back in your country?
I would say that you just pointed out 2 issues which are extremely important, to the point that trade and investment were made a particular chapter in the strategic dialogue that Qatar and Spain signed on 21st of June. Now, both in terms of trade and investment, obviously, Qataris have the advantage there. We actually are importing from Qataris much more than we are exporting to Qatar. But I think that all in all, the bilateral trade is coming up. I think that we are around the $1,500 million at this particular moment and coming up. And we certainly have the willingness to promote commerce and trade between both sides. In fact, when the strategic dialogue took place in Madrid on June 21st, we did not only that, we organized a meeting between both private sectors in Madrid that actually counted on the presence of the Minister of Industry and Commerce of both sides, and that was closed officially by the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed. We initiated business dialogue, which is going to be extremely useful. We identified a number of areas, and certainly tourism is one of them. Artificial intelligence, energy, infrastructures, of course tourism. So we're going to be working on that. In terms of investment, let me tell you that there is a very strong relationship between Kia, this Qatar Investment Authority, and the sovereign fund in Spain, which is called Cofides. Cofides and Kia, they have a very intense relationship. In fact, I will be receiving shortly a delegation from Cofides here, so that actually both parties can keep on talking about the possibilities to keep on working together. Trade and investment are an important part. We're also working with Qatar on an agreement in order to promote and protect reciprocal investment in both our countries. And let me tell you something which is also important, and I'm leaving here the bilateral issue. In a couple of days, and most particularly on the 16th of October in Brussels, because Spain here works at both levels, national and as a part of the European Union. Well, on that second level, from the European Union point of sight, a very important summit for the first time is going to be taking place in Brussels between the GCC countries and the European Union countries. As you know, Qatar is holding the rotational presidency of the GCC countries. That, of course, gives Qatar a particular relevance, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things, not only about political, geostrategical issues, but also about trade and investment between the two blocs. That's an important thing. So bilaterally and as a part of the European Union, Spain is promoting trade and investment between Qatar and the rest of Spain and Europe.
So are there any additional initiatives the Embassy of Spain here in Qatar will be carrying out to draw more investors from Qatar to Spain?
We are, apart from this delegation from Cofides, we are expecting, I will tell you that some delegations will be here to attend WebEx in February 2025. That's going to be important. And we are considering the possibility now so that at the time of WebEx, we will organize a new chapter of this business dialogue between both private sectors. And of course, apart from these, let me remind you that we have a Chamber of Commerce here, Chamber of Commerce of Spain, which actually includes not only Qatari firms and companies, but at least 40 Spanish firms in all fields of the economy working on different levels that actually have been taken apart on the development of Qatar. So infrastructure, energy, IT, trains, we have been very present here, and we do have the hope and the intention to keep it that way.
Okay, so now when we come to tourism, of course, key cities such as Madrid, Valencia, Barcelona stands out. But have you seen a larger audience of Qatari citizens flowing into your country?
I think that tourism is honestly one of the fields in which Spain and Qatar have more to say to each other. We have followed with extreme interest the launching of the roadmap for tourism a couple of days ago with the Prime Minister and the rest of the government. Qatar wants to reach 6 million visitors by 2030. And after the enormous success of the FIFA World Cup in 2022, I think that they are going to be doing a great job. Spain has something to say as far as tourism is concerned. As you know, we are one of the countries, I think we're the second or the third, with more UN declared sites of interest from the UNESCO point of view. And last year we received 82 million tourist visitors. Tourism makes for 12-13% of our GDP and actually has been contributing to the Spanish economy in a large extent. We can have a very long discussion and a frank conversation, and I'm sure that we will find fields of understanding in which we can help each other in that particular way. Tourism is certainly, at the end of the day, a way in which people know each other, and the more knowledge that we have about each other, the better we will be in a position to understand each other's problems. That's a very important step.
As the Middle East tensions continue to soar, Spain recently recognized Palestinian statehood. As an envoy to Qatar, what further steps would your country initiate along with Qatar and other regional partners to execute a ceasefire deal?
Let me tell you that the situation in the Middle East has been and still is a source of concern, not only for Qatar, but also for Spain. In fact, this is one of the issues of which both our leadership maintain a very intense conversation. Just a few days ago, again, the Prime Minister of Qatar and our President of Government, they hold a conversation on the phone talking about this current situation and the need to avoid an escalation, to avoid the generalization of the conflict. We are working together with Qatar. Qatar has been deploying extraordinary efforts of mediation that so far have not been crowned with success, although we understand that Qatar is insisting on these efforts, and we appreciate that very much. And as you said, Spain and Qatar share many things. We both have insisted on the need of a ceasefire. We insist on the need to release the hostages and the prisoners. We have both condemned, Qatar and Spain, the bombardments in Lebanon. And Spain is pushing, as Qatar is doing, for the recognition of two-state solution. This is the only way in which we think that we can push ahead. That is why we understand that it is important to organize an international peace conference in order to push that aim, that objective forward. The situation on the ground at this particular moment is very disconcerting and is a sort of concern. But as Spain, we have understood that if we want to be consistent with ourselves, the first thing to do, as we have done, is a recognition of the Palestinian state. And in that sense, His Majesty, the King of Spain, received just a few days ago the credentials from the first full Palestinian ambassador in Madrid. So that actually we are in line with what we say. We recognize the Palestinian state, we have relations with Israel because we do believe that the recognition of two states in the region living peacefully next to one another is the only solution to the situation in the Middle East. And until the moment that you don't tackle the Palestinian issue, and the only way to do so is the recognition of a Palestinian state, peace in the region will be just a dream. And certainly we're looking forward to see the evolution on the area in the following days. We are looking with extreme concern to the situation in Gaza and of course in Lebanon. I would not like to end this interview without underlining that in October the 12th, it will be the Spanish National Day.
Ambassador Javier Barbosa, thank you for your time with the Peninsula.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much to the Peninsula newspaper that I insist I read every day. Thank you.
You.